wasn't only Red Bull Racing that celebrated big time after the Brazilian Grand Prix. Of course, it was also the Renault Sport F1 guys. And spare a thought for them. Okay, they don't work quite the same hours over a Grand Prix weekend as the Formula One mechanics. They arrive one day later on the flyaways. But these guys are all going straight back to work. The 2014 engines beckon. No time for holidays for the engine people. Anyway, Renault Sport won the first race of the V8 era back in 2006. They finished the era with a 1-2 finish in Brazil. Romain Grosjean added colour with a massive blow-up. Fun to watch, probably not much fun for the mechanics after the race, but nonetheless, a brilliant season for them. Rob White is the head of Renault Sport F1. Rob, congratulations on your 4th consecutive World Championship.
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess it was a relief to get to the end in Brazil, and really a good feeling to feel like we finished as we started with a win.
You did back in 06. Back in 06.
Yes. It goes back quite a long time now.
I suppose there are lots of questions. I don't want to fire too many at you about the era, but I think one of the interesting things is what's going to happen to all the V8 engines now?
I guess the first thing to say is that all the V8 engines, perhaps aren't as many of them as people imagine, because clearly we've known that the end of the period was approaching, and therefore one of the kind of management tasks of the past months has been to try and finish the period with as little obsolete stock as possible, and therefore we needed to get to the end and sort of to look after the engine build and so forth to the end of the one of the project management objectives was not end up with a load of inventory on the shelves.
Yeah.
And then the engines themselves, of course, at the end of the season, then they're more or less at the end of their natural life. But there are kind of the remains of the engine pool for each driver, and then there are, of course, a number of engines that were built as spares. But the early engines from the engine pool have already kind of disappeared, have been dismantled for inspection and/or disposal, and then the ones that are left. There is a difference relative to previous years, which of course is that those part used engines remaining in the pool, and the either part used or unused engines which were available as spares are a little bit orphan and don't have a natural home either as development engine on the dyno to prepare for next year, or indeed for test engines over the winter. So there are a few. Our policy is that we have a kind of end of project archiving process, which will batch up a number of the engines, a certain number of spare parts, and those will go into archive storage and be used in the future if ever there are any needs for museum cars and that kind of use. The other thing just to draw attention to, of course, is that there are still running show cars which will use the V8s for probably a couple of years yet, and those engines have also been built now and will be sort of on the shelf awaiting deployment.
And I guess it's fair to say, actually, in terms of show cars or cars that perhaps private buyers may be able to get hold of, that those cars are going to be pretty efficient because these engines seem to run forever.
It's a bit of a spin-off really of the way in which these engines have evolved. That the current generation V8 with only very little massaging is a very good piece for kind of the demonstration type use that it's used for. The engines are kind of a little bit used and abused in those circumstances, but not really in the same way as on a Grand Prix weekend. And I think from memory, then they're good for sort of 3,000 kilometres in show car use.
Just cracks me up when you say that. 3,000 kilometres. It's unbelievable.
I think it's important. Not to belittle the difficulty, though, of running those cars. The show cars remain, real F1 cars. The engines remain real F1 engines, and certainly from the point of view of how those cars are operated. Then, although they're not operated in the intensity of a race weekend, then they're certainly operated exactly to the same standard in terms of looking after the mileage on the bits and certainly all of the kind of safety implications of running a Formula One car, and particularly in some of the kind of wacky places where these demonstration runs get done. It's a big task on its own.
Rob, what about Romain Grosjean's race engine? What's going to happen to that? Ha ha ha.
I suspect that one will, despite everything, it'll receive particular attention when it comes back, because we need to know why it broke. Initial impressions are that it's something in the area of the piston. We know that because there's an inspection hole in the side that allows us to look in and see that it's definitely in the bottom of the engine, but the crank and conrods look in good shape. So we know already it's in the region of the piston, but we don't know for what reason. And it's important for us to understand that failure first of all, so we can give the feedback to Lotus, which we always do if something bad happens. And second, because it's not yet known whether the type of problem that we encounter is uniquely due to the V8, or whether it's a kind of process related problem which could be carried forward.
Who makes the pistons, Rob?
I guess the good news on that is that we don't make any pieces, but we take the responsibility for all the pieces in the engine are designed and developed by Renault Sport. And as far as the teams that use our engines are concerned, it's a Renault Sport engine, and it's got Renault Sport pistons in it, and that's the way it has to be.
Rob, I've just been mentioning in introducing you that you guys are going to have virtually no brake because of the 2014 engine stresses that are facing you straight after this race. I hope you're not going to let me down and say you're going off to the Seychelles now for 3 weeks.
Quite right. The 2014 project has already consumed a majority of the resource in the factory throughout this year. Clearly, at the racetrack, then all eyes have been on the championship. All eyes have been on the 8-cylinder engine, and kind of the more downstream end of the process has been occupied with producing, building, testing, and operating the V8s. But back at base, the design office, the test beds, the supply chain has been overwhelmingly devoted to the new power units throughout most of this year. Of course, we're now in an extremely intense phase of development. We're kind of we've got a significant number of problems which we've learned about. We've got an approximately equal number of solutions, and now we're racing good news against bad news with the intention of arriving for the first race in a state of readiness, ready to attack with a fully competitive power unit. Right now, today, we're not ready to race, but we've got a few weeks left, and the hope is that that we make best use of the time available to be ready to race.
January 28 isn't that far away. It's that to me is an extraordinarily short period of time now for you to have 6 cars running in Jerez.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely. I think we're 111 days away from Melbourne, if my memory is right. And you're quite right. It's a very short time, and I think the thing that we've got to be very conscious of is that putting a new engine of any type into kind of more than one car at the same time is an incredibly big ask. It's not really been done in the recent past, if ever, and certainly to have to do it for 4 teams with a power unit of this complexity is extraordinarily challenging. But kind of it comes with the territory. You know, we've all known it. This is what the requirement is, and in their own way, the teams are all kind of just getting on with it, and we've got to service requirements of the teams according to their individual needs, but you know, with an approach which is as best we can the same as regards the power unit.
Well, it's going to be fascinating. Just to go back with the final question on the V8 era, your favourite moment of the entire era, Rob?
I don't really have favourite moments, but probably the one of the things that leaks out, you know, with all the distortions, because of, you know, don't remember as well things that happened a little while ago as things that are recent. But I think the race win in Abu Dhabi in 2010, which got Vettel his first championship, which was also when Petrov held off Alonso because we didn't have
no
DRS to tread on every strawberry. Was a good memory for me, and I think going back a bit further in time, the celebrations at Viry after the first V8 championship, which was of course Fernando's second championship, and the second one of the 2 Renault F1 team championships. So those are the moments that I remember most as being good ones in the V8 era.
Well, great memories both, and the sad thing about Formula One, in view of how quickly things move on, is that we don't have a lot of time to dwell on those, but I hope you still can keep those memories alive as you work through the nights and the long winter days into 2014, Rob. And congratulations again on your success. I, for one, thought Mercedes were going to win it this year, and I've been proved completely wrong, mainly due to your good self. So congratulations on that, and may you have a wonderful off-season, as good as that can be when you're working. I know the sort of hours that you'll be putting in.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thanks for that, and we'll find out what happens in Australia, I guess.
We look forward to it very much. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, cheers. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.